Many of us are interested in the question of what is useful for persimmons. For what health problems is persimmon really useful, and why? How many persimmons can you eat a day so as not to harm your health? We are going to answer all these questions right now. In addition, we will tell you how to use persimmons for medicinal purposes. So be careful, and don't miss all the most important and interesting things. Who doesn't like persimmons? After all, it has an unusually pleasant taste, tender flesh with light notes of astringency. But this is not all of its advantages. The berry is rich in vitamins, minerals, trace elements, and many other nutrients. By the way, in China, Japan, Nepal, northern India, and Korea. Eastern persimmon has been grown and traditionally used for the treatment of various diseases for about 2,000 years. This is one of the most ancient and widespread species of this plant. In Tibetan medicine, in which, among many characteristics, cold and warm qualities of products and their division into yin and yang groups are always taken into account. And here, persimmon is assigned to the yang group, which means that the product has a warming and active effect. And, in addition, it has the ability to balance the yin principle and prevents the accumulation of mucus and fat and, consequently, the development of cardiovascular and oncological diseases. The main value of persimmons is the presence of a large amount of antioxidants. One of them is beta-carotene, which is a precursor of vitamin A. It is contained in persimmons more than in carrots, peppers, or pumpkin. If you eat a fruit weighing about 150 grams, then this will allow you to get up to 20% of the daily norm of this substance. First of all, vitamin A is important for the renewal of cells in our body. In addition, beta-carotene fights free radicals, thereby protecting cells from destruction, which slows down the aging process. Persimmon, thanks to naphthoquinons, has a well-pronounced relaxing effect that reduces irritability and anxiety. The hypnogenic effect of persimmon is expressed in the fact that fans of this berry fall asleep much faster and easier, sleep longer and more soundly. They have less sudden awakenings. Thus, the inclusion of persimmons in the diet is really effective for people suffering from insomnia. How does persimmon affect blood vessels? It should be noted that the persimmon contains a large amount of vitamin C in combination with vitamins of group B. It activates the activity of the immune system, which increases the body's resistance to viral and bacterial infections. In addition, ascorbic acid in combination with vitamin P, which is also present in persimmon in the necessary quantities, has a beneficial effect on the condition of blood vessels. This improves blood flow and serves as an excellent prevention of atherosclerosis. That is why persimmons are recommended to include in their diet for those who are at risk of cardiovascular diseases. The microelement composition of persimmons is also diverse. It contains potassium, which allows you to remove excess water from the body. It is useful to remember this for people who are prone to high blood pressure. Another valuable trace element is magnesium. This substance normalizes the work of the heart muscle, has a positive effect on the state of the nervous system, and improves the absorption of other useful substances. Thanks to magnesium, sodium salts are excreted from the body, which reduces the likelihood of kidney stones forming. In what cases is persimmon useful and why? Often persimmon is prescribed for anemia. This berry contains really a lot of iron, which at the same time is quite well absorbed, and it also contains iodine, which is useful for the normal functioning of the thyroid gland. By the way, this trace element is rarely found in plant products. The record holder for its content is sea cabbage, but, alas, it is not to everyone's taste. How does persimmon affect the intestines? The use of persimmons stimulates the work of the intestines. With moderate consumption, persimmon normalizes stool, but this rule applies only to ripe fruits. Otherwise, it can cause the opposite effect, in particular in those who suffer from constant constipation. The astringent properties of persimmon with excessive use, which are associated with the content of tannins, can lead to bloating, stomach pain, and constipation. Is it possible to eat persimmons with diabetes? Persimmon fruits contain a large amount of carbohydrates, 18.5 grams per 100 grams of product. At the same time, 25% of this amount is accounted for by glucose and fructose. The glycemic index is equal to 50 units. Therefore, people with diabetes need to accurately determine their consumption rate in order to avoid complications. How much persimmon is acceptable to eat per day? Including persimmons in your diet, you need to take into account the total amount of simple sugars consumed. It should be borne in mind that the average fruit weighs about 250 dashes of 300 grams. On average, its caloric content ranges from 150 to 220 kilocalories. With a varied diet, it is advisable to consume, on average, no more than 2 or 3 pieces per week. If we talk about smaller fruits, 1 persimmon per day. By the way, it is the fresh persimmon that is most useful, since it contains the most valuable substances. Eating 1 persimmon a day is not harmful, and even more, the most useful substances are contained in fresh persimmons. Ripe persimmon fruits combine well with cottage cheese, yogurt, kefir, and other fermented milk products, and not so much with milk. It is better to separate the persimmon from the main meal, pausing for at least 30 minutes. How are the medicinal properties of persimmon used in folk medicine? For the treatment of chronic diarrhea, it is necessary to take a ripe persimmon and cut it into small pieces, which must be placed in a container and filled with 100 milliliters of hot water. Close the lid tightly and insist for 30 minutes. It is necessary to use the infusion in a cooled form for half a glass every 4 hours. From urinary incontinence, the stalks of persimmon fruits must be crushed, and the resulting raw materials should be poured with boiling water, 200 milliliters, and boiled for 10 minutes. After that, insist under the lid for another hour. The remedy is taken for 60 to 70 milliliters, twice a day. From hypertension, 1 ripe persimmon should be brought to a jelly-like mass with a blender. After that, add the crushed ginger root, which you need to take a quarter of the volume of the persimmon. Add a few drops of lemon juice to improve the taste. You can add honey if desired. The mixture is taken 3 times a day for 10 milliliters. Persimmon is widely used in cosmetology, where it becomes the basis for natural nourishing creams and lotions. To prepare a cleansing lotion, the pulp of 1 fruit is poured with 200 milliliters of vodka and 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. It is tightly closed with a lid and infused for a week in a dark place. This lotion is soaked in a paper napkin, which is applied to the face for 10 to 15 minutes. Like any product, persimmon has a number of contraindications. The high content of tannin in persimmon, which is especially characteristic of unripe berries, and a large amount of vegetable fiber allow us to consider this very dangerous for people with intestinal adhesions and people who have recently undergone surgery on the abdominal organs. Another danger from the use of persimmons is associated with the presence of iodine in the berries. With excessive intake of which into the body, for example during self-medication and with an overdose of iodine-containing drugs, chronic inflammation and thyroid dysfunction may occur. Friends, today we have prepared for you the most important points about the benefits and harms of persimmons. If the video turned out to be useful for you, we will be very grateful if you share the video on social networks. In addition, we would like to remind you that we highly appreciate your comments. Write your opinion about persimmon, how it affects your health. Well, we sincerely wish you good health and will be glad to see you again.